All right. Hello and welcome to Andrew Broussard Watercolors. However, despite the name of my channel, today I'm going to be doing an oil painting. So I'm just going to get everything set up. It's a very limited palette that I'm going to utilize, and I'll be using Galacide Light as my medium. This has been my kind of go-to medium. I think I've talked about it before, where linseed oil is kind of the typical, I think, thinning medium. That and some other chemicals. Well, linseed oil isn't like chemically toxic or stuff like that. I tend to avoid it mainly because of discarding of the rags, and that's something that I just need to research, and I obviously haven't researched it since the last time I've done a video. So I use this relatively safe and not too dangerous. You know, well, some of that stuff is pretty bad for you. The other thing's not linseed oil. I'm going to use Venetian red. I put out some white and put out some sap green, and I might put out some other colors after this, but this very limited palette is going to be for the tonalist approach, and that's what I do in my other videos with oil painting, and it's essentially what I learned from videos by Stuart Davies and a few of the videos by Dennis Sheehan. So I use the Venetian red, the sap green. I also put a blue. Really don't have a preference with oils with what blue I've been using, unless like there's a cerulean blue for a sky. But I kind of use it here just for darkening the mix. I also use lamp black. So it's pretty limited. I might throw some other colors in there, but that's kind of my basic. Stuart Davies talks about using Payne's Gray, and Payne's Gray is often a mixture of a blue and a black. I think I poured out cobalt blue just now, and cobalt blue is one that I saw mixed in a video, a watercolor demonstration, where the gentleman used cobalt blue because it was a pretty, I guess, neutral between warm and cool in this grand scheme of blues. I'm not quite sure where it sits, but that's what I recall him saying. This is an 8x10 gesso board. It has some depth to it, and it is smooth, super smooth, and I like it because it gives the ability of wiping back to show the whites of it. I have some canvas. Originally, when I started doing oils again, utilized canvas, but I was it was recommended by Stuart Davies that I mentioned to have kind of a smoother, and I don't want to misquote him or anything like that, but smoother or maybe a higher quality canvas in order to get the wiping back and whatnot. And I just couldn't afford the quality of canvas, and it seems like these boards do the trick. The board in the videos that the current masters use is often, I think, the MDF board. Is that what it's called? And they'll gesso it and sand it down and whatnot. But I'm not doing super large sizes, and I kind of was looking at prices and whatnot. And at the time, you know, being a school teacher and coaching and all that, I was teaching and busy, so I didn't have the time to do all that preparation. But right now, with no work due to you know, the global crisis that's taking place, got all the time in the world. It's kind of funny, like you almost forget like what day of the week it is, and time seems to have almost no meaning. Everything just seems to blend together. Did a painting this morning, and we took a bike ride, then went to lay down for a nap, but that really wasn't happening, so I took a hot bath. And then now I'm here doing another video for y'all. So this is just going to be a made up scene, and in the style of Stuart Davies and Dennis Sheehan. And I'm kind of just putting in shapes, and we'll see where it takes us. I'll put it in, wipe it back, soften it up, change things around, and see what happens. And while I do this, and this is just kind of that mixture, I threw a little bit of black in it at one point. I don't usually do that early, but I'm not really quite sure why I had done that. I guess I was feeling a little bit darker here. While I do that, as with this channel, you are always welcome to follow along and leave comments, ask questions, let me know anything that maybe I didn't do clearly, or things that you did differently, or stuff you'd like me to address. Like I said, feel free to copy along. I would love to see your results. Feel free to like, subscribe, all that other stuff. I do have a Patreon account, which I would really appreciate if you can maybe join and check out. I have like two options. One is just $3 a month. The other one's $5 a month. And that's just mainly so that I can get supplies and whatnot. And if you aren't able to do that, that's totally fine. I really, I understand it. And, feel free to keep on, using this content and following along. To be honest, subscribers and people watching means more to me than the monetary amount. It's just that boards like this kind of cost a little bit. But yeah, don't feel bad if you can't do anything like that. I do have the Etsy account if you're ever interested in purchasing anything. The oil paintings take a little while to get up there because of drying time. However, I haven't sold an oil painting on Etsy yet. I'm relatively new to the Etsy, so the watercolors have sold, but not the oils yet. I soften it quite a bit. I'm not sure if that is kind of in the same vibe as the gentleman that I've been talking about, but I think it helps me build up a lot easier. And it's probably reminiscent of the super softening that happens when my watercolors dry and then I go on to the next layer. So that's probably what is influencing that effect right there and why I'm doing that. Dennis Sheehan had posted he's been posting pictures every day of his sketches and all that, and he does landscape and portrait studies, I guess is what you call it. And I commented on one of his posts today and asked him if he finishes in one setting, and he says yes. And it's really nice stuff. I think it's that tonalist color in there, the landscape and the setting sun and whatnot. Maybe we'll try to achieve that with this one. I'm kind of pushing back this. And when I do horizontal strokes, that's usually me kind of setting water into place. I find that tones are very important within painting, but in addition to tones, the gestural strokes and the directions kind of help create the direction and the form of objects. I'm not sure why that is. And like I said, we'll soften back and forth. One thing I noticed with the video that I saw with Mr. Dennis, and I'm no art critic and I'm not an art expert, but I noticed some differences between him and Stuart Davies, where Mr. Dennis, he just swipes and flows and adds and subtracts. It's almost like, if you ever see those videos where it's there's a whole crowd watching somebody up on stage, and they have a box in front of them and a projector on a screen showing what the person's doing in the box, and they have the sand and they're telling a story and moving and creating shapes with the sand. That's almost the way Mr. Dennis seems to do his oil paintings, or at least his sketches. Well, Mr. Davies has, and I think he does omit forms and whatnot, but there does seem to be a more structural build-up over time with his, where something like this, the holes in the trees, may kind of be there almost from the beginning. That doesn't mean to say he keeps them there the whole time. He might get rid of them, but his form, I guess, is able to follow, if that's maybe what I'm driving at. Well, Mr. Sheehan, Mr. Dennis, I'm not sure how his mind works. It's just phenomenal how he can do it. Both of them are phenomenal painters. Very important in the tonalist community. On the Facebook page for Tonalism, Mr. John, the admin, he had started a Tonalism website, and he started interviewing modern tonalists, and he has a interview with Mr. Dennis up there, and it's a relatively new website. Another gentleman and a female tonalist, modern. There seems to be a lot of female tonalists in the movement. I forget the one that he had interviewed, but she had just beautiful stuff. And when I practiced my writing, I was looking at some of her quotes and writing it down. And I'm just adding little forms, seeing how I want to play with it, if it's want to be trees and whatnot. There's a few ladies in the totalists, like I said. I think there's Megan Gray Arts. I think she started doing videos and whatnot. She has very cool stuff. There's, I think it's Donna Ellis. She's been posting quite a bit. And there's another lady, and I can't pronounce her last name for the life of me. So I feel bad about that I can't give her a shout out. But it starts with a V. So if she ever sees this, she knows I'm referring to her. She's been posting a lot on the Tonos page for the past few months. She has very soft, wispy stuff. This is a habit from my watercolors of putting shadows and reflections in before I put the actual object. And I think that is to kind of give the water shape, and also because I often paint wet and wet, so in the wetter stages it helps me get that in there. This is a pretty common composition for me, having the water come through here, at least for oils. It's nothing like the oils I did in college, which were very Van Gogh inspired and Impressionist inspired. This is mixing a little bit. I'm starting to darken things up now. Mixing a little bit cobalt blue. This is where studying the structures of trees and how they fit into the landscape really helps. And I might be doing completely wrong, but I like to think that the underhang of the trees are darker. I often have that foliage near the bottom of the trees. And we'll start getting trunks and whatnot in. And we'll go back and forth, adding and subtracting. So I'm going to soften this all up and just let it all blend and start getting an idea of what's going to take place. Probably white back some of this, kind of play with this form of the tree and soften that and change the shape. So this surface allows me to erase in that fashion. I think as you do it more and more, you then loosen up. Do an opening in the sky right here. That kind of just shows how you can kind of change the whole composition. Have an outside guy right back here. You could come in and affect everything, and then we could create a little tension by having this one reach up and maybe touching that. I don't know if it's going to stay like that. I'm literally just playing. Let's soften these guys up. I use the shop rags. They just seem to be better, more durable for me. Also, I'm going to tell you guys some secrets. With what's currently taking place in the world, there's, a lot of paper goods that aren't on the shelves. Paper towel included. Paper towels integral for my oil and watercolor painting. If you go to the automotive section, you'll find shop regs on the shelf, even though all paper towels will be off in that one section. The other thing is, I use like gloves when I'm cleaning up the animal cages and all that, because we got a few animals. And all the gloves were sold out, so I went to the painting section of Walmart, the house paint, and was able to get some vinyl gloves. We use the gloves for other things and whatnot, and I don't mean to be like, haha, we pulled one over, but need those things for some sanitary stuff in the house. One thing I haven't figured out is, since we started administering my allergy shots at home, due to this, like the allergist is closed down and whatnot, I think we might do a big tree in front right here. So I'm going to wipe out its trunk. Let's see. So since the allergist is legit just not letting anybody in the office, and they let me take my shots home to administer, I have some rubbing alcohol left, because we got to clean the tops of the vials, and we got to clean my arm before we administer it. Is rubbing alcohol and all that. So we just got to figure out where to find more of that, but I have that in the meanwhile. Let's steal a little black in here and really set this guy in place. And we'll start adding to his trunk in a bit and texture around him. I feel like we should have darkened this one up more, maybe accentuated a little bit more. We'll do that. We'll keep in mind that a tree will probably take place right there, and if we need to wipe back, we'll wipe back. And this dark will give us an opportunity for counter change potentially against the trunks. I have a thin brush in my all collection. I don't use that often, so I feel like I'm not able to get super thin lines with it. Maybe it's the pressure that I apply, but maybe we could get this guy in there and then I'll soften him. When I was taking a bath, I thought about something, and I sorry for getting so philosophical on you all during a painting, but we often put ourselves in a higher position than we usually are. And I'm not using the best language to describe it, but what I'm trying to say is we often think that, we're number one, the most important thing. For example, let's say, school closure. And we think, oh my God, what are we going to do? School closure because of this. But, meanwhile, like the Olympics is being pushed back to next year, a big worldwide event where, this high school powerlifting meet is being canceled because of this. But meanwhile, all of March Madness is being canceled. And, so, I mean, we put a lot of weight on what goes on in our lives. But, there's the bigger picture of the whole world. So it might tie into the thinking about what I'm going to say. You're going to see a lot of stuff about how the arts are helping people during this time period. And they are, a lot of people are staying home, binge watching TV shows. People are binge watching painting videos. You guys may be watching my videos one after another. But where was I going with that? Lost my train of thought. I'll get back to it in a second. I'm sorry. I'm just softening this and creating this scene. Okay. I got it now. Where, a lot of us artists and, movie actors, musicians, all those people are turning to in times like this, And in our videos, we're talking about it, we're mentioning it, we're saying, stay safe, sending messages across like that, which is good. But down the line, when this is all over, and hopefully that's soon, people watching this are then going to be reminded of that event and wonder how it's affecting art during this time period. Because a lot of us are producing content for free, to keep people entertained, to keep people in their houses, and just to, keep us from going crazy, because, we're bored too. But how is that affecting our painting, the content that we're producing, and how does it affect the future watching of it? Like, if you're watching this down the line and everything's over and done with, are you going to be like, oh, another person talking about the pandemic? Or, oh, I remember that. Does it remind people down the line about how quickly things can change? Somebody who goes online and watches a painting video and then is reminded of that. Sorry, it's almost kind of a dark, sad thought. Whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. So I'll change the tune while I'm painting. Because I've noticed a lot of painters and artists will say, in comments that, their art is affected, that they are experiencing, issues, depression and all that they are having a hard time concentrating. These kind of strokes right here are very reminiscent of the way I used to paint in college. I don't think I'm going to keep them in it. I'm just kind of darkening the backside of that tree. Also, rather than changing one object, I can change the area around it. I think they refer to that as the whole negative painting stuff. So if you hear that term, I believe that's essentially what it is just painting around the object to create the form as opposed to painting the object itself. When I was a kid, and I still do this, I watch skateboarding videos, and I genuinely enjoy it. And when we were a kid, we'd watch the skateboarding videos to get us excited before we'd go outside and skateboard. And I had, Tony Hawk videos, and my friends had different painting videos and skating videos and whatnot. And it was just a lot of fun. I think that's the same thing with painting videos for me, or hopefully for y'all. Maybe this is getting you guys excited and inspired to do other stuff, even though I'm kind of doing the whole monotone, low-key talking on this one. So I apologize if it gets kind of down. What else? Yeah, because this one's more of a demonstration than an actual tutoring. I mean, it's talking a little bit about how I'm approaching it and whatnot, but I'm not proficient with the oils. I was thinking to myself jokingly about how I named the channel Andrew Broussard Watercolors, and my Instagram account Andrew Broussard Watercolors, and now it's like oils and pen and ink and just a lot of different artistic stuff. And I was thinking about alternative silly names, you know, Andrew Broussard painting, not silly, but Andrew Broussard everything but acrylics. And then if I switch to that, I bet the next day I'd wind up doing acrylics. So I'm thinking about that. This is kind of just darkening for that foreground tree, softening. I'm gonna, I think, have to accentuate some of its edges since it's closer than this background tree. I'm gonna have to accentuate the dark base. I was texting my friend that I haven't talked to in quite a while, and he's working from home right now. And he was saying, you know, the bright side is he's been getting to spend a lot of time with his kid, which is really cool. I think we're going to see a lot of changes in the world whenever this is over with, in terms of working and whatnot. There's that gentleman that I take food shopping and whatnot, and you know, he's a cool guy. He's an old veteran, and he called me up today to see how I was doing, and what was it going with him? Yeah, he was talking about, you know, he's like, you should contact you should contact Bill Gates. Bill Gates, you know, they're always out there. They're always putting money out there and putting computers in schools and whatnot. So working for the public school system, there's just not enough computers, and because of differences in socioeconomic classes and whatnot, there's no way to mandate kids to do anything from home, you know? So, but private schools, they're able to do that. I was talking to this one acquaintance that I have that I talk fountain pens with, and he teaches at a private school, and they had like one-to-one iPads, I think, you know, like every kid had an iPad or something. So they're capable of doing that. My friend's kids go to the private school right around the corner, and they're continuing education through what's called Google Classroom, where the teachers are able to upload lessons or links for videos for kids to watch. But within public school, it's just not feasible because of, you know, just the state of you know, some kids' homes' lives. And I saw a news report about that, I think in LA, not Louisiana, even though that's where I am, LA, Los Angeles, where a lot of the people that went homeschool, virtual, were not reporting to their virtual classes, not doing their stuff. It was like thousands of kids. Anyway, when I was on the phone with the gentleman, and he was talking about Bill Gates and all that, and helping those things, and how I should, write to Bill Gates and whatnot. And I told him, I was like, listen, with all this stuff going on right now, there are probably, and I would hope to assume, I think that there are thousands of people above me in the education chain who are thinking, we need to plan for not when, if this happens again, it's when this happens again. So I think we're going to see a lot of changes on that front. And if we don't see changes on that front, then there's something severely wrong with their thinking. Whether it's budgeting constraints and whatnot, using the back of the pen brush to kind of scrape into this. We'll see what happens with it. I might soften those up so they aren't so stark. I might have to come over them. But right now they're overwhelmed with figuring out graduation for kids and credits and whatnot, and they had talks on the state level about live streaming graduations, etc. So once they get past this, I think we're going to see a lot of changes. I think we'll see a lot of changes with technology and how we address education. And yeah. Hopefully, and all that, and I think the word is diatribe, I didn't let out any of my personal political beliefs because I'd like to leave the channel free of that. Though I'm more, I guess, what you'd call libertarian, or live and let live type thing. This is getting interesting, this painting. And if you wind up watching this whole thing, I'm sure my rambling is going to be quite interesting. I don't think I'd be able to bring myself to watch back through it to hear all this malarkey that's coming out of my mouth. These paintings are so much fun. With the oils, so pretty much it was sap green, Venetian red, I believe Stuart Davies uses red ochre, but I haven't been able to find what brand produces the red ochre, ochre being an earth tone, Venetian red being the red earth tone, so there's probably that relationship there between those two. I think I have seen some people do phthalo green and light red oxide, which is once again that rust tone. Anyway, so yeah, so those two on the palette, a blue, white, which I haven't touched at all this one. Usually I go through a lot of white. But with these, I guess, tonal sketches, maybe I could put white in here if need be, but having this board allows me to really wipe back. I think if I was to put a blue in the sky, I could put that in there. Or clouds, I could put the white in. And then black. So if you ever want to get into oil painting and you're skeptical as to the price, you can do it with a minimum palette if you're interested in stuff like this. A limited palette. Like Galakide Light, canvases or boards. I use palette paper. Let's say if you got big tubes or student brand tubes, 10, 20. If you did smaller tubes of those colors, palette pad, smaller tubes would be about $30, let's say, for those 5 colors of a student brand. So, palette paper will bring you up to about 40. Cheap set of brushes, $5 or $10, so that'll bring you about to 50. A medium, which will bring you to about, what was that, 50, so we'll say 65, and then surfaces to paint on. So that's just to kind of give you guys an idea for those of you that think about starting oil painting. So it is possible, and that's why I do ask at the beginning of the video about Patreon. If you all would be considered willing to support. This is the tonalist style, 1880s to 1920s American. Whistler and George Inez, the movers and shakers of that movement. There's other painters within that movement during that time period that you could check out. I believe Charles Warren Eaton was one of them. Who else? Just terrible with names right off the bat. Those are people you can check out. And like I said, the modern painters, and there's that Tonalist Facebook page, which encourage you to join, check out as well. See what people are posting. Burge Harrison, he was a big proponent of it and a book writer. He was a painter and he wrote art texts. His book came out in like 1908, 1909. Burge Harrison, he had that. Who else? That's probably all you need to know. You can probably then do some more research on your own. But if you comment, Andrew, I'd like to hear more about different tonalist painters, I'll gladly do more research for y'all. We could try to pull out these highlights and the bird holes, but I kind of like the fuzziness over it. Kind of, if you had a graphic image, they would call it noise. I think that adds to the tone there. One thing about these paintings is once you play around with the oil a little bit and you feel the additives and subtractive process of this technique, you almost feel like you finished the paintings too soon. And you just want to keep going, not because, don't know if you feel like the piece is incomplete, but maybe because you're just having like a lot of fun. Even though this conversation or ranting had gotten kind of a little sad because of the current events, it is very, very, very fun painting technique. I encourage you all to try it out. Like I said, with the numbers that I gave you, that's probably about how much it would cost to start oil painting. But you can do it with the watercolor. And I have some tonalist type watercolor painting videos. You could obviously do it with graphite, pen and ink, because you're literally just doing tonal values. I think gouache, you'd be able to do it as well. Probably acrylics, but for the life of me, and you want to be positive about art and be like, yeah, you can do anything. I cannot get acrylics to work for me. It might be because I like pushing things around like this. And maybe between oils, the fountain pens, and the watercolor, and all that, that's enough stuff, enough mediums for me to play around in. I have been thinking about getting into the graphite drawings. There's a gentleman whose YouTube handle and I think Patreon handle is Smoothie77, and the people that I've talked to and seen the results from his videos are just, oh man, he is doing something right with his teaching. Let me stand up, take a look about this. Let's see how far we can wipe back. Maybe we'll even put a little white in there. I want to grab that. This white sit on the surface of the water, create that illusion. And this is experimental right here, but the whole point of this channel is to really get you guys to experiment, to get myself to experiment. I could, in the style of Stuart Davies, I have a soft brush, and I could sweep it back and forth over this and soften everything. But I think I'm just going to use the paper towel to soften it. I'm trying to catch a little bit of the medium that's left on my palette. I could probably mix a little bit of blue into the sky right here. And I'll soften it all together. How does that sound? May have gambled and lost right there. No, I'm good. take this. That's a little too dark. This is where kind of aerial perspective comes in. I would need to tone it down a little bit. Create a far background tree. I don't know if that's working, but we're going to make it work. Since it lightened up, we can darken some aspects of it. You can take Q-tips and get a more pinpoint. Softening, but that's just a test to see how that would look. Maybe time to call this one done. About that. Did that help? All right, let me stand up, take a look. I think at this point, we're gonna call it done. I'm gonna use the back of the brush, just put my initials right there, and then soften that a little bit, just so it's not they're hidden, but you and I know it's there. I hope you all enjoyed. It was a little bit fun, a little bit melancholy, I guess would be the term, but that does fit the emotions of tonalism. I'm looking forward to hearing from y'all. I would love to see y'all's results. Have fun out there, be safe, stay home, take care of your loved ones and your neighbors, and I'll be back again tomorrow with another video. So everybody have a great day, and I'll see you soon.